In this video, we are going to learn how to implement page output catching based on query string value of the page. If you would have watched my previous videos, you must have noticed that there was a where by param property in the output catch directives, and I told that we will cover that later on. In this video, we are going to cover that, and we will see that how to use the where by param property. So here what we are going to do is that we are going to learn that how to catch different version of the page based on the parameter passed on the page. So for that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create one ASPX page. So let me go ahead and copy and paste from here, and let me tell you what is in this. In this, we have a very simple label control with ID as LBL message, and in this we have kept output catch directives. Duration is equal to 15 seconds, and the where by param is product ID. This where by param helped us to define the query string value that can be used to differentiate the one version of page with the other version of the page. So let us see with example. So before I do that, let me copy paste the code behind code as well here. So I'm going to in the code behind and copy and pasting this code. Now here what we are doing is that we are writing the current date time into the label control here. Now let me go ahead and run this page. So default.aspx behave in browser. Okay, now notice that it is default.aspx page, and because I'm keep refreshing, but because it is cached for 15 seconds, so I'm getting the same date and time till 15 seconds of the request. So let me refresh it again. I'm keep refreshing. Now let me do it through mouse. Okay, 58. Now when I will write product ID equal to 2, you can see that the date time has changed. If I will go ahead and change this to default, then still it is 58 seconds. If I will add product ID equal to 3, then see it has changed. So in this way you can see that based on the value being passed on the page as a product ID query string, the output of the page is changing, and the same output is being cached into the server memory. Because I have a specified duration equal to 15 seconds, so the default.aspx page without parameter also will be cached for the 15 seconds. The output of the default.aspx with product ID equal to 2 will also be cached for the 15 seconds. The default.aspx page with product ID equal to 3 will also be cached for 15 seconds, and so on. So all the different versions of the page based on the parameter being passed on the page will be cached for the number of seconds we have specified in the duration of output catch directives. So this is the use of the where by parameter property. This is very frequently used in case you have to display different products of your website, and you are passing the product ID as the query string on show.aspx page. So in that case, for all the products, one version of show.aspx will be cached. In this how-to, we are going to learn how to store data into cache and retrieve from it, and we will also see that how to remove data stored into the cache. How to perform output catching for the entire page, means how to catch the entire output of the page. Then we learned how to catch a portion of the page using the user control, that is also called a partial catching. And then we learned how to catch the different versions of the page based on the query string passed on it. In this how to, we are going to learn how to catch data and retrieve the data from it, and also we will see that how to remove the data from the cache. And in this case we are not going to use any output catch directives, but we are going to use the catch object. So for that, what we have done is that we have first created one grid view on the ASPX page, as you can see here. on the ASPX page we have a grid view and I have also kept one label control. In this label control we will basically write whether the data is coming from the cache or whether the data is coming from the database. And then we have a button called btn remove, and on click of the button we are executing the remove cache server side method. And in the code behind what we have is that we have first underscore constr string variable at the page label on which I am retrieving the value of database connection string and using this configuration manager object that exists into system.configuration namespace. And then in the page load event of the page we are checking for if it is not post back, then we are calling the get data method, and in the get data method we are first instantiating the data table, and then we are using the catch object. You can see here catch, and then we are specifying the key. So my key is personal detail data. If this catch of personal detail data is not null, it means that there is some data into this particular catch. Then we are unboxing that data into the data table, because later on we are going to store data table into this catch, and we are writing into the label saying that data coming from the catch in this label, so that we will know that the data table data is coming from the catch. And then if this catch of personal detail data is null, it means that there is nothing into it. That ultimately means that the page is being loaded for the first time. Then what we are doing is that we are using the edu.net to get the data from the database. So first we are instantiating the SQL connection, then we are writing the SQL command to execute. In real-time scenario you should use the stored procedure. Please watch my edu.net video on how to use the stored procedure. And then we are instantiating the SQL command by passing the SQL select statement and the database connection, and using SQL data adapter we are calling the fill method to fill all the records from personal detail table to the data table, and we are ultimately storing that data table into the cache. Notice that this key and this key both are same. If both will not be same, then we will not get the desired result. And then we are writing into the label saying that data coming from the database, and that data table is ultimately being set as the data source of the grid view, and we are calling the data bind method that is basically binding the data into the grid view. Now on the click of the button, as I said, we are calling the remove cache server side method, and this remove cache server side method we are using the remove method by passing the key and the personal detail, the same key, that will basically remove the data stored into the cache with this key, and it will make it empty actually. And then we are writing the cache removed successfully into the label. Now let me run this page. So I have run the page. You can see that first time that the data is coming from the database. Now if I will refresh the page again, so naturally it will come from the cache, because this cache of personal detail will not be null, so the data will be retrieved from the cache. Okay, and all the remaining hits will get the data from the cache. You can see that I am refreshing, and every time the data is coming from the cache. Now if you want to remove the data from the cache, then we can click on the remove data from cache, and that will basically remove the data from the cache successfully. You can see here cache.remove of the key. Now if I will go back and run the page again, you can see that again the data is coming from the database because it was null. So that's why it is coming to the else block and getting the data from the database and storing into the cache again. And again if I will refresh the page, then data will start coming from the cache. So this is the way to basically store the data into the cache object and retrieve it, and also we saw that how to remove the data from the cache.